absolute dramas. Again, there's all these things goes on that you pitch up, but yeah, Liam scrambling about the day of trying to find a way there, and then from that in the morning to winning the thing.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the GrALBA Clubhouse here in Pedal Power, West Calder. Cammy, lots to discuss and recap from the Carron Crusher. First and foremost, it nearly didn't happen.
Yeah, tell me about it. A stressful start to proceedings, and like we say, like in all our event notes, these are public forests. There's so much going on that I think folk maybe don't necessarily see behind the scenes. But yeah, we were marking the course on the Friday, literally less than 24 hours before we get a message from the Forestry Commission letting us know there's nesting ospreys on the course, which it happens particularly that time of year. Thankfully, issue was resolved, but we've been in this position before that we've actually had to alter the routes because of the nesting birds at that time of year. Thankfully, all things resolved, but for a couple of hours it was looking hairy.
Yeah. Was there also some trees down as well?
Yeah, lots of trees down, literally a few days before. But yeah, great team at Forestry and Scotland managed to get everything cleared and sorted. So yeah, behind the scenes, maybe looking a wee bit stressful, but yeah, we were delighted to be able to deliver.
It's like that kind of thing where you see a duck just gliding, you don't see the feet at the bottom, underneath the water.
Manic. Yeah, there's always things. Yeah, all different landowners and yeah, wildlife as well, particularly this time of year. It's a big thing.
We got it over the line, and of course, round one started off with a bit of bang.
Yeah.
Obviously, first of all, we had the weather. Typically Scottish at that time of year. Cold. Was a wee bit of sleet as well, I think, maybe?
We literally had sleet, we had snow, we had wind, we had sunshine for a wee bit. Literally all the weather in one day. So yeah,
just the standard West
typical Scottish spring weather. Yeah, everything.
So talk us through it. So first of all, we had our time trial, 8.5k TT. First time we've had that in the GrALBA series. How was that from your point of view? It looked like it was a really, really close race. Obviously, Louis Moore from EBF came away in first spot in the men's series, and I think it was Grace Ingles as well from HUP CC who won the women's TT. Yeah. How was it from your point of view? It looked like it was pretty close though.
Really tight, and I kind of thought that was going to be the case. It was just like literally like a handful of seconds between riders across our male and female races. I think it's something really cool in opening the series up with a TT format. I mean, you see like Tour de France and stuff so many times. It's been a prologue. It's quite a ceremonial start, I think. So yeah, good test, like shaking out the legs, and creates like a real sort of strategic tactical battle going into that bunch race where no time bonuses. It's purely down to the second. So
results wise, we had first three. We had Louis Moore from Edinburgh Bike Fitting. Second place was Paddy Hughes from Quai de Papa. Third place was Sam Stevenson from Hope Factory Racing. So it's great to see some of the boys from the north of England popping up to be part of the GrALBA. And of course, the women's result was Grace Ingles, Team HUP, and then followed by Rebecca Sanderson, who from Studio Velo won the Crusher last year. And third place was Ava Luce from Team Unformed Brothers. So nice spread there of teams across that result. But like I'm saying, it's good to see people from the north of England popping up across the board when it comes part of this.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like I think in our first year, the GrALBA series was very much sort of Scottish riders, which naturally it's the first year we kind of expect that. But yeah, this year there's folk even down in London, a big crowd up from Muck CC, sort of Newcastle based, and lots of other English riders, even a few over from Ireland as well. So really cool to see that kind of expansion just beyond the sort of the Scottish scene.
So moving on from that, obviously bunch race straight after that. One thing we need to talk about is Liam Scott Douglas. We'll talk about more in a moment, but Liam almost didn't make it.
I know, absolute dramas. Again, there's all these things goes on that you pitch up, but yeah, Liam, I think it was a broken down car or something, and was literally scrambling about the day of trying to find a way there, and then from that in the morning to winning the thing.
Exactly. So bunch race, obviously very, very different dynamic to the TT. Again, Edinburgh Bike Fitting came away with a win, with Liam taking it ahead of Tom Stevenson this time. And obviously Paddy Hughes again.
Our elite men's podium there, great riding from Paddy. Our senior men's winner from the GrALBA Series 2025. Great to see Paddy back in the elite technicals. He's crossing the line there.
Paddy's a quality bike rider, rides for Quai de Papa, former British age group champion from 19 to 35.
Yeah, in 25.
Really solid. He's some really solid results, and obviously he did a really solid ride just a few weeks before that at the Gravel Foil 10 as well. So he's probably thinking getting a bit of training in ahead of the Border 200, which we will talk about later. But then women's result: Grace Ingles, Team HUP, Rebecca Sanderson again there from Studio Velo, and Isabel Straff-D.
Yeah. Another HUP rider,
Another HUP rider, yep.
Yeah, really interesting race because we had the two HUP riders actually bridged away and had, I think in the first half it must have been a good sort of 30 to 40 second gap on Rebecca. Rebecca hacking by herself in windy conditions. I kind of thought that's going to be the two HUP riders up the road, race done more or less, and probably Rebecca rounding off the podium. There was actually another couple of HUP riders behind, and she was kind of in that sort of no man's land. So really impressive ride to not only bridge that gap but come through into second.
The thing is as well with Isabel Straff-D is that she's always been a bit of a sleeper athlete. She has campaigned for years in Europe on the CX. Really handy rider, still a really young rider as well, and it's great to see her up at the pointy end with the senior riders now. Really
good, super, as you say, super young rider and just breaking through into that sort of senior racing, and really impressive result. But to be honest, by no means a shock. Like I was very much expecting to see her in that position.
Proper handy, and it's also great for Gracie's point of view of having a teammate in there as well to help support.
Yeah, and like we said in the first preview, there's going to be kind of road race elements to that, with being able to work with other riders, and we actually saw that in the men's race as well. Like it was interesting to see there was for a period sort of three main groups of about 10 to 12 riders, and it was interesting hearing that at points it was actually almost like fairly easy just sort of sitting in on the wheels, and then they could come around on that climb and actually hit it and get the gaps. So yeah, from a tactical point, really interesting racing.
Yeah, so it's going to make this series potentially quite, obviously moving into the next rounds, obviously down at the Borders at Muck Mac. It's going to make it quite interesting to see how that dynamic would play out as well over that longer distance in the 200, which we'll touch on in a wee bit. Yeah,
it's going to be attritional, but like I think the difference with this one, as we say, the distance, like first and foremost, the big thing, but there are sort of sections of B road and some fast fire road again that if you can get in a group and work, or even sort of sit in a little bit, then that is going to pay dividends once you get to that sort of final quarter, where we're going to touch on it later. It's you're going to be wanting fresh legs at that stage.
Cool. So Cammy, one of the talking points when we did the preview of this event was we were talking a lot about tyres choices, right? But bike choices were a full spectrum in there. We had Liam winning on his commuting bike on alleged 32mm tyres, which is pretty impressive around there because it's pretty chunky. But we also had riders, I think Ross from Perth United, his second name escapes me just now, but he rode the Santa Cruz Bluff and finished 5th in his age category.
I remember seeing him right up at the start, like, that's a boy on a mountain bike, which is really cool, and I think that's the whole thing with gravel is, you can have a sort of fancy racing gravel bike, but it's very much open to mountain bikes as well, and more relaxed sort of riding styles, big fat tyres, narrow tyres, commuting bikes. So it's the full spectrum of bikes on the show.
It's really interesting to see that because obviously there's everything in between that, isn't there? So you've got people on like pure race gravel bikes, but the fact that it can be such a big spectrum just shows you how sort of accessible
100%
this side of the sport is for everyone.
Like, I think you go into any other discipline with a slightly different type of bike and it just doesn't work. I think gravel is that one unique cycling discipline where you can actually have a range of bikes and actually at points they'll probably perform better. Like, I'm sure Ross at sections on the descent he'll have been ripping it and probably got a bit of a gap on sort of the twitchy boys with like deep sections. It's cool.
Yeah, it's good to see that diversity. So round one, big success. Congratulations to everyone that took part and braved that crazy Scottish weather. And of course, we'll now move on to round two.
Welcome to Traquair House, Scotland's oldest inhabited house and home to Muck Mac Fest for the last 5 years. Muck Mac holds a special place in our heart. It's our flagship gravel festival, one we've developed over the years. And on a personal note, it's in the Tweed Valley, the place I first fell in love with riding the bike. The riding is fantastic, and it's, as I say, I've been riding these trails since I was a kid, so it literally feels like coming home every time we come and deliver this event. And over the years, we've developed the format. It's traditionally been sort of a gravel enduro across the weekend. To celebrate our 5th year, we are launching the Border 200 kilometre challenge. And this ride takes in not just the Tweed Valley, but the whole Scottish Borders region. We think it's arguably one of the most stunning routes we've ever put on, so we can't wait to welcome you there for that mega challenge. The next day takes our more traditional format with the gravel enduro stage race structure, short, punchy stages. Hopefully it gives your legs a little bit of time to recover without super long challenges, because we know there's going to be some fatigue in the legs there. Now, at Muck Mac, for those that are familiar, you'll know it is as much about the festival atmosphere as it is the riding. So we've put a lot of time into the programming in our walled garden, stunning setting in the grounds of the house. So our programme includes, we've got live music, talks and films, an evening ceilidh, yoga, free saunas and lots of kids activities. So there truly is something for a full family to do throughout the weekend at Muck Mac Fest, and we can't wait to welcome you back for our 5th year here at Traquair House.
So from the GrALBA point of view, the GrALBA series has been slid into this event for the first time this year. Obviously Muck Mac has been well established as like a 2-day sort of stage race enduro format. Anyone who doesn't know what enduro format is, basically there's time sections. The route is X amount of kilometres, and there'll be a section for like maybe 1k, 2k, 10k as an example. And the accumulated time of all those stages then sees where you place in overall. That's still standing, that still happens for everyday people who want to take part in race over the weekend.
Exactly.
But if you're part of the GrALBA series, on the Saturday we've got the Border 200. 200k around some of the best gravel you're going to come around. The Borders itself is a beautiful place to ride your bike, but this route has got something like 4,500 metres of climbing in 200k. Every hill around about that neck of the woods is roughly 400 metres in height. You're taking in quite a lot of it, then, eh?
It's lumpy. Yeah, we with, like I say, with it being the 5th year, we wanted to do something a bit different to kind of mark that sort of 5-year anniversary. So endurance riding's becoming more and more of a thing. So we thought we want to celebrate that. So which is why we've launched this Border 200, and we deliver events across the whole breadth of the country, and I would say this is probably our most stunning and most diverse route we've ever delivered. It's a true stunner. You've got, like you say, it's just a constant sort of lumpy day. Big elevation, big scenes. We go through something like there's 15 different valleys throughout the course. So it's a full experience.
And the thing is as well, that's obviously day one. Big long day. 200k, it can be anything from 10 to 15 hours depending on the weather and what's going on. Obviously out there, feeding zones for people to drop bags, etc.
So we do have multiple feed zones along the course. Additionally, with a partnership with Vittoria, we've actually got tech boxes as well.
Brilliant.
So they are going to be distributed across the course. Again, we don't want you relying on those tech boxes, but they are there in case of emergency. I think one of the key differences we're really excited to offer on this Border 200 route is we've got Vittoria tech boxes dotted at various points along the route, and these are going to be outlined in our event notes with sort of spare tubes, pumps, tyre levers, and sealant as well. And obviously not to be relied on, that you need to be bringing all the kit that we've got outlined, and very much as a kind of last resort. But I guess what can riders do to avoid sort of puncturing as best they can? Yeah.
I mean, it goes without saying, Cameron, that the first thing I'd say is definitely ensure that you got tyres that are in good condition before you actually turn up. And if you don't, of course, we're going to be on site all weekend with our retail partner Pedal Power, so people can come and actually buy new tyres from us that'll fit for them free of charge. But out on the course, I think the main thing really is to just ensure that your tyre pressures are optimal as well, and with that, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the highest tyre pressure, because, like we said before, on a long ride like that, you need to factor in rider fatigue, and unfortunately if you have a high tyre pressure you are going to get more fatigue. So I'd urge the riders to come and speak to us and get that tyre pressure set up perfectly. But again, the Airliner gravel is just such a great bit of kit to allow you to run a really low tyre pressure, but without worrying about that issue of getting a pinch flat, you know, if you hit one of those rocks at speed and actually pinching the tyre against the rim. Sealant in your tyres as your first defence. Second defence would be something like a tyre plug to plug a bigger hole. And for me, like I say, ideally, the third defence would be an Airliner. So if you do have an issue, you can simply ride to the next feed station where you can then help yourself to more sealant, or worst case scenario, an inner tube in the tech boxes that we'll provide.
It's a big route. What we will say, there is a couple cut-off points along the way if you are feeling that it's a bit of a stretch. Like you say, could be up to 15 hours to get around that. So we appreciate it's a big day, and there's a day of racing on the Sunday too.
So going on to that day two, very, very different format, a lot shorter, a lot punchy, still a decent day of climbing if you're riding the whole route, still about 1,500 metres of climbing. But the style of racing is very, very different, isn't it? It's not about how long it takes you to get round the loop. No. It's really about those 3 stages. So day two in the GrALBA series, stage 1, 2.8k, which will take place in the Cardrona forest. It's a bit of a fan favourite actually of the old Muck Mac.
It is that.
Stage 2, basically up from the Peel, give or take, in Glentress Forest, up to the bench at the Red,
it's a big
which
one.
Everyone knows the bench and the Red. And then the final one is sort of around like Glenbenna towards the top of Innerleithen, where the uplift would come up, and that's the longest one, 4.5k. That's a pretty punchy day, isn't it?
It is, and that final stage is kind of it's undulating. There's kicks, there's downhills. It's I think the big thing is going to be that 200k the day before is how people recover, and I think it's interesting seeing pretty much 90-95% of the folk riding will have done the Saturday and done the Sunday as well. So yes, you're going to have fatigued legs. Pretty much everyone is also going to have fatigued legs. So it's an even keel.
I think it's about how well you can back it up. And it's obviously thinking about, you know, you're eating for the day of the 200k, but you're also eating for tomorrow,
the next day, and
which is really important.
It's during that ride in the 200k, and it's straight after getting on recovery. It's like an enhanced version of Carron Valley the round before, with a short prologue and bunch race, but like on a more spread out scale over the weekend and far longer.
So we're talking about gravel events right now, and we're finding more and more in road events across the world, gravel sections are becoming more and more of a part and parcel of all of the routes. We're very lucky to have a good friend in Mark Stewart, who rides for Modern Adventures professional cycling team, and Mark took part in his very first inaugural Paris-Roubaix. Got an interview with Mark now. He's got some really, really good tips here on how to look after yourself and prepare for a big, big event. So check this video out. Good to hear from Mark, and great to see him at that level.
How does the pavé and the cobbles of the French roads compare to maybe something like Scottish gravel?
Yeah, I think we did the recon, like I said, in March, and I'd never ridden the Forest of Arenberg or Carrefour de Labra or any of these sort of iconic sectors. And I remember when we finished Arenberg, just in the recon, I thought, nah, there is no way we can race over this. Like, that specifically was like nothing I'd ever raced on before. And I couldn't quite believe that, like, thousands of riders before had raced on this and then gone back to race on it again. So yeah, it was daunting. It was physically very demanding, but it's probably not dissimilar to a gravel race in a sense that the way you tackle gravel or cobbles technically is super important. You've got to look after your bike, you've got to look after your body, so weight distribution, entering these sections is super important. Like you say, your positioning in the bunch, or even just lifting your front wheel before you get on the pavé so you don't puncture. So there's sort of these technical aspects that I imagine, you know, would cover both.
You've just ridden a 258k race.
I think so, yeah.
And riders will be preparing to take on the Border 200 this weekend. What preparation tips would you give them?
Yeah, I'd say for me personally, it's easier to break it down into hours in my head rather than kilometres, because I train every day on the bike and I never train 2 kilometres, I train to hours. So what I did before Paris-Roubaix is you sort of have a look at what your projected average speed will be, and then from that you can work out, okay, am I going to be 5 hours, 6 hours or 7 hours? And then once I know the hours, to me it's way more manageable to break that up into sections. So okay, this is what I'm going to do for the first couple hours, and then the middle 3 hours I'll do this, and then the final 2 or 3 hours I'll do this, just like I would do in almost every training ride. So yeah, so that was the first thing, so sort of putting it into more manageable chunks in my head. And then the second thing was just not changing anything massively. Like it's 200k, the event, but other events might be 150k. So you're only 50k more, you want to sort of go through the motions like you would for a larger event, but maybe you're having 100 grams more carbs at dinner. You're not changing anything dramatically, you're just making small tweaks for a slightly bigger event. But you've sort of got your base stuff that you do for every event. And like for me, going into a Paris-Roubaix as opposed to like a smaller road event, a lot of my preparation actually remains the same. And it's just making minor tweaks because the distance is longer. But my taper, my pre-race day, my nutrition strategy all looks very similar to what I've tried and tested before.
Cammy, great to hear from Mark. Obviously his inaugural Paris-Roubaix. Yeah. Loads of really good information and advice in there. And if you're wanting to see the full episode, there's a link below in the description. Click that and you can see the full interview with Mark. Now, Mark touched on quite a few interesting points there, but one of the main things when it comes to a big event, Border 200, it's potentially the biggest day on a bike that people are going to do, especially thus far this year, I would have 100%. Thought. But mindset is really, really important, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a different box of frogs altogether. Being out on the bike for 3 hours in a race, it's done before you know it. Whereas, that period of time is, the mind wanders. There's battles along the way, and it's an entirely different thing altogether.
Yeah. So on that, we've actually got a really nice piece right now by Aidan Webster. He's going to talk us through not only mental preparation, but maybe a bit of latte art as well, I hear.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Aidan Webster. I'm a fan of riding my bike over long distances. And today we'll be making a coffee and speaking about how to cope with the mental side of racing for such a long time. First thing, I've got to grind the beans. I normally go for 14 grams. First things first, when you're racing such a long distance, you want to know the course before you go into it. So if you figure out where the key points are, so you know if you're on a climb, how long it's going to last, and then once you're off the climb, how long you've got till the next one. Next thing you want to do before you go into the race, if you think about it, is a race of 2 halves. So the first 100k is the climb, second 100k, the descent. So it means that when you hit that 100k mark, you know that you're halfway done and you've done the hard part, and it's just ride home to the finish. We got our cup, we got our AeroPress, coffee. Spill a little bit. So, now that you're just before the event, you know you've done the training, so you need to just trust in it and enjoy the ride. You've definitely had a harder point training than you're going to do enjoying the race. If your legs start to hurt, just try and take every climb as an individual. So get over the top, descend down to the next one, and while you're descending, try and ease off and just know that you're not having to put any effort in. And then the next climb, take that as its own and just keep digging away at the race. So we add, for this, I fill the AeroPress up to the number 1 for 1 cup of coffee. And we let it sit for a little bit, just to something, I don't know what it does, but we let it sit. It's really important that you speak to other people when you're in the groups, because they're probably feeling the same way you are. And it's so amazing how much just chatting to someone else in the group will boost your morale. You might even start working together as a pair, and then you'll get through even quicker. Now this is sat for about 30 seconds. We can put the plunger on, give that a squeeze. And I like to let that sit for a little bit first. I'll have to push this down first and then I'll do that. This better not shit out the sides. Boom. Coffee. Now that we've made our coffee, one thing while you're racing, if you're starting to feel a bit of a hunger fatigue, it's really important you carry something that's a non-riding food, so something you like to eat off the bike. It could even be a Mars bar or a packet of Haribos, just something that you can eat and cleanse your palate, and it'll kind of bring that feeling of not being racing. So if you treat every roller, so up every climb, down every descent, if you just keep rolling through the course, you'll be flying through it. So with the course for this race, with the big climb being 3/4 of the way in, it means that if you pace into this one, once you're over the top of this climb, it's just a cruise down to the finish. So it makes this climb, if you think about that, as the big part of the race, and you just treat that as its own separate thing. Just get up and over it, and then down into the finish. Well, thanks for making a coffee with me, guys. Hope to see you out on the course, and have a great race.
So Cam, mate, some really, really good stuff there from Aidan. Now, we've talked about mindset, we've talked about the details of the route. Big deal here is you get to do two things I love. Ride your bike all day and eat food. We always need to think about, if it is 10 hours, that's a lot of food to consume. And we always say that carbohydrate is king in that situation, which is very, very true. Grams wise, 90 to 100 grams per hour. But at the same time, don't forget, real food is really, really important. And these kind of longer events, you can definitely get a little bit of palate fatigue, and sometimes want something a bit savoury. So always have something with you which is real food and something which maybe isn't sweet.
Yeah.
The other thing we've got to think about is that we've got OTE, who are there as our partner. There will be some product around the course as well at the start. But right now in front of us, we've got what roughly, well not roughly, exactly what 100 grams of carbohydrate looks like.
Yeah, on the dot, and that's like you say, over that period of time, it's getting the carbs in you consistently, looking for about 90 to 100 grams an hour. And the great thing with our OTE product is it literally says it on the can.
Straight on it.
Like we've got our carb bars, 40 grams, the carb drinks, 40 grams, a gel, 20 grams. So there is 100 grams right there, and it adds up to a lot. I mean, that's going to be like a kilo of carbs for most of our folk out in the course. It's a lot, but yeah.
I think also having that spread around the course at points, being able to just know that that'll be there potentially. Don't rely on it, you know, because somebody might have got there before you and stole all the duo bars or something like that. But always making sure you've got plenty of stuff with you. And this also comes into the sort of like what you're carrying with you, what's in your bag. If you've got a top tube bag, is it in your pockets? Just making sure you've always got bases covered. And this is really kind of an emergencies and a little top up. If you
100%,
we drop things, you know, things you go eat something and it falls on the floor, you're not going to pick it up. But this is an option to keep on restocking, isn't it?
Exactly. You know it's going to be along the course. So we're going to have 4 key feed stations, which will have our OT product. There'll be other bits and bobs, bananas, cakes, that kind of stuff. Bit more palatable. Like we say, that you don't want to be just having purely energy product. There's very few people can just eat that for the duration of it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of like, you need to train the belly to take that.
You. After that sort of particularly like 5 hour mark, if you've not trialed that kind of fueling strategy, then the chances are your gut won't actually be able to hack it. So it's breaking it down with some bananas, cakes, just more sort of palatable snacks.
Like I say, ride your bike, eat food all day. So things to think about. If you're doing the 200 and the day afterwards, make sure you are front loading all of that fuel. It's basically an eating competition. I'll be there, and I'll be doing my best to try and win that eating competition for sure. Right folks, so if that's not enough information for you, we are now going to jump over into our Velo Viewer and go through both the Border 200 as well as Day 2 at Muck Mac for you guys taking part in the GrALBA Series 2026. Okay, so Border 200, round 2 of the GrALBA Series. This one is a biggie. Really important things to remember here. Race start time, 7 AM. Race briefing, 6:50. Again, like previous rounds, Male and female starts are separated. Male go at 7 AM, female at 5 past. Very important to note as well is the first 5 kilometres as we make our way across to Glen Benna, which is our first climb on screen. That will be neutralised because it's a public road and we just want to make sure everyone gets out the gate nice and safe, and it will be exactly the same for both races. Now, looking at the profile here, we can see this is a massive scope that we've got on this course and on this route. Very, very lumpy, quite lumpy at the start. Middle section's nice and rolling, but we can see right now, looking at that profile, there's a massive, massive sting in the tail towards the last third of this event. Approximately 150k in, 50k to go, we've got a massive climb, which will take us from St Mary's Loch all the way over the hill into Peebles again. It looks all downhill on the profile, but trust me, as we meander away back to the start-finish area, there are still quite a few little stings in the tail. So, last chance on that climb, get some food in you, look after yourself, get down safe, and get to the finish. Okay, so moving on to round 3, which is also day 2 of Muck Mac. This one is very, very different. This is an enduro style event with 3 sections. As you can see from the profile, still some meaty climbing out there of roughly 1500 metres. The total distance is 68k with a start time of 9 AM. That's the start time, however you've got a 30-minute window to leave the start area to then go onto the stages. And what are those stages? Well, we've got 3 of them en route. First one starts at 7 kilometres. It's roughly 2.8k in duration. Nice, fast, flowy, rolly section around the Cardrona Forest. Section 2 at 18 kilometres, again roughly 2.6k in length. This one though really, really bites. This is going to take you basically from the bottom of Glen Tress to the top of the Red Route. This is really, really stiff gradients, some real tight pitches in there as well. So this was going to be one for the climbers. Then stage 3 at 53k in. We're getting towards the real end of this, but this is a different kind of stage, a little bit longer in duration, 4.5k, starts off pretty mellow around the outside of the hill, and then we've got some really steep pitches in there towards the end. So that is your 3rd round of the GrALBA series, which will also be day 2 of the Muck Mac Festival. I'm looking forward to it. These courses over this weekend are going to be absolutely brilliant. We'll see you there. So obviously this event is taking place where it will be members of public, farming land, and of course open roads. A little bit of housekeeping from your point of view. Yeah, 100%. I think probably more so with this one than any other round. So like we've referred to earlier, the course takes in, it's about 60% off-road, 40% on-road. There are sections on the public road, and yeah, it's just standard road rules when you're out there, keeping to the left-hand side, being aware for other traffic, and stopping at the key junctions. We'll have signage along the route notifying you when you're coming up to a section of public road. We'll have marshals at these key sections. You need to wait for the traffic to pass through and wait for the marshal call to draw you forward. So yeah, that's super important. Also, like we say, it's the time of year that we're riding the event is like high lambing season, and the course actually goes through a number of stretches where we're going through farmland. So yeah, we're needing the riders to be really aware of not just the animals but members of the public. It's also for the future of the event. If we annoy people, we basically won't get asked to come back.
Exactly that. We're really fortunate to have a really good working relationship with the various landowners along the way, and we want to keep that we want to keep that great relationship for the years to come, hopefully.
Okay, so we spoke about all the things that you need to bring, but ultimately there is a compulsory list of things that you really need to carry if you're doing the Border 200. What's on that list?
100%. Yeah, we're looking at sort of kit and spares. We're going to need tubes, pump or gas canister, tyre levers, a multi-tool, ideally with a chain tool on that as well, and dyno plugs. That's our absolute minimum that you have to bring with you as an essential. And looking at the clothing as well, we saw it at Carron Valley, all weather from snow to sun to wind. So jackets, buffs, gloves, and probably even an extra layer again. If it is warm in the morning, even sticking some leg warmers too.
Yeah.
You can never be too prepared. Packing them in your bags, handlebar bags, or even in your sort of race vest as well. Just bring more than you think you probably need.
As the Scottish borders, the weather can change quite quick.
Scottish borders is, I think the last few years we've, again, like Carron Valley, seen all the weather, snow, sun, rain, everything. So we expect that. Another key one is that foil blanket. It's super lightweight and you can pack it away. That is an absolute essential as well.
And it might sound a little bit overkill, but it only takes a puncture at the wrong point in the course, being stuck in a moor, and your body temperature dropping like a degree.
It drops.
And you know, the chances of like exposure are pretty high. So it does sound, you know, a bit candy flossy, but it's really, really important because safety, of course, is paramount.
Absolute paramount. Yeah, it's scary how quickly you can get hypothermic out in those conditions when you're, like we say, out in the moors, exposed. And
obviously, it's an early start as well for the Border 200. 7 in the morning. Lights,
absolutely essential. So some of our folk are going to be out riding for 10 to 15 hours potentially. So starting at 7, it's going to be just light, but 100% you need to be having a rear light and a front light, whether that's a head torch or a bike mounted light. That's a non-negotiable. 100%. You need to be having that out on the road.
So there you hear it, folks. Boss has said, check the list, make sure you pack it, make sure you bring it.
And one very exciting note from our bike manufacturer partner, HUP CC.
It's amazing that HUP are going to be sponsoring the GrALBA Series this year, and that means that every single race in the series, you've got the chance to win a state-of-the-art set of gravel wheels. So these are hand-built in Scotland, less than 1,600 grams, 26mm inners, so they really are the latest gravel technology. To be in with a chance of winning a set, all you've got to do is enter the race, and that race entry will put you into the raffle prize draw. Turn up at the podium after the racing's complete, and one lucky winner will get their hands on a nice, shiny new set of wheels. See you there.
Well, thanks once again for joining us here for the GrALBA Series Clubhouse. And thanks again to Pedal Power for having us along to do another recap and preview of the next rounds. Cammy, I'm going to be there. You're going to be there.
We will see you there at Muck Mac Fest.
All the best, folks. See you soon.